Ladies and gentlemen, loneliness is a profound and often misunderstood experience that touches the core of human existence. It is not merely about being physically alone, but rather about feeling emotionally isolated, disconnected, and separated from others. At the heart of this loneliness are emotional barriers. Walls built from hurt, fear, mistrust, and unresolved pain that keep us apart from the meaningful relationships we desire. Forgiveness acts as a powerful tool to break down these barriers, allowing genuine connection and intimacy to flourish where there was once distance and division. These emotional barriers often develop as protective mechanisms when we are hurt by others. Through betrayal, rejection, or neglect, we instinctively create walls around our hearts to shield ourselves from further pain. These walls can take the form of resentment, anger, bitterness, or mistrust. While they may serve a short-term purpose of self-preservation, over time they become prisons that isolate us from the love and connection we crave. Forgiveness invites us to dismantle these walls, not by forgetting the pain or excusing harmful behavior, but by choosing to release the hold that negative emotions have over us. Forgiveness allows us to confront the pain that fuels our emotional barriers with courage and compassion. Holding on to anger or resentment often feels justified because it stems from real wounds. However, when we hold on to these feelings, we remain tethered to the source of our hurt, replaying the pain over and over in our minds. This continuous replay reinforces our isolation, making it difficult to open up and trust again. Forgiveness disrupts this cycle by offering an alternative, a choice to let go of the bitterness and release the emotional grip of the past. This act of letting go is liberating, freeing us from the burdens that keep us emotionally distant. Breaking down these emotional barriers through forgiveness also requires vulnerability. Genuine connection and intimacy demand that we lower our defenses and allow others to see us authentically. This can be terrifying, especially for those who have experienced deep hurt. Forgiveness fosters the courage to be vulnerable by healing the wounds that make vulnerability feel unsafe. When we forgive, we create an internal environment where trust and openness can grow, making it possible to form deeper, more meaningful bonds with others. Furthermore, forgiveness helps us to reclaim our power in relationships. Emotional barriers often arise from feelings of powerlessness or victimization. We build walls to protect ourselves because we fear being hurt again. Forgiveness shifts this dynamic by returning power to us, not by controlling others, but by controlling how we respond to our pain. It empowers us to choose healing and connection over bitterness and isolation. This reclaiming of power opens the door to healthier, more balanced relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. Forgiveness also plays a vital role in breaking the cycle of loneliness because it transforms how we view those who have hurt us. When resentment and anger dominate our perceptions, we see others as threats or enemies. This adversarial mindset strengthens our emotional barriers, preventing reconciliation and connection. Forgiveness encourages empathy and compassion, allowing us to recognize the humanity in others, even those who have caused us pain. This shift in perspective softens our hearts, making it easier to bridge the gap of loneliness and foster reconciliation. Emotional barriers are not only erected toward others but can also be self-imposed. Sometimes loneliness stems from feelings of shame, guilt, or unworthiness that keep us from reaching out. We may push people away or isolate ourselves because we believe we do not deserve love or connection. Forgiveness is equally effective in breaking down these internal walls. Forgiving ourselves for perceived failures or mistakes nurtures self-compassion and acceptance, enabling us to approach others with greater openness and confidence. The power of forgiveness in healing loneliness extends beyond personal relationships to our broader sense of belonging. Humans are social beings wired for connection, yet emotional barriers can make us feel alienated not only from individuals, but also from communities and society. Forgiveness helps us re-engage with the world by releasing the burdens of resentment and bitterness that isolate us. It restores our capacity for trust and hope, which are essential for building community and feeling part of something larger than ourselves. Forgiveness also promotes emotional healing by reducing the stress and anxiety associated with loneliness. Carrying unresolved anger and hurt creates chronic emotional tension, which affects both mental and physical health. When we forgive, we lower this emotional burden, promoting calmness and well-being. This improved emotional state makes it easier to engage socially and form connections, thus breaking the cycle of loneliness. Moreover, forgiveness encourages us to adopt a mindset of generosity and kindness in relationships. When we forgive, we practice extending grace and understanding to others, which often inspires reciprocal behavior. This exchange of goodwill creates a positive feedback loop, strengthening bonds and reducing feelings of isolation. Forgiveness becomes a catalyst for creating nurturing environments where intimacy and connection can thrive. Forgiveness also invites us to redefine what connection means. Emotional barriers often arise from expectations about how others should behave or how relationships should unfold. When these expectations are unmet, disappointment and resentment build walls. Forgiveness encourages flexibility and acceptance, helping us appreciate people as they are rather than how we wish them to be. This openness deepens our connections and reduces the loneliness that stems from unmet expectations. In the journey of breaking down emotional barriers, forgiveness is a process rather than a single event. It requires time, patience, and repeated commitment. Sometimes the pain runs deep and wounds resurface even after forgiveness has begun. This is natural and part of healing. The important thing is to continue choosing forgiveness, allowing it to gradually soften the barriers and open pathways to connection. Forgiveness also teaches us about the interconnectedness of all human beings. Recognizing that everyone carries their own pain and struggles fosters empathy and reduces judgment. This shared humanity connects us beneath surface differences and divisions. Forgiveness opens our hearts to this truth, helping us see loneliness as a universal experience that can be overcome through compassion and connection. Practicing forgiveness can be supported by various tools and approaches, such as mindfulness, therapy, spiritual practices, or support groups. These resources help us process emotions, gain perspective, and cultivate the emotional strength needed to break down barriers. Engaging in these practices enhances our ability to forgive and deepen our connections with others. The benefits of forgiveness in healing loneliness ripple outward, impacting not only personal well-being but also the health of families, communities, and society. When individuals break free from emotional isolation, they contribute to more compassionate and connected environments. Forgiveness, therefore, is not only a personal journey, but a collective gift that fosters social healing and unity. Breaking down emotional barriers through forgiveness also requires courage. The courage to face pain, to confront past wounds, and to risk vulnerability. This bravery is transformative. It empowers us to move beyond fear and isolation toward love and belonging. Forgiveness becomes a powerful act of self-liberation, freeing us from the prisons of loneliness. Forgiveness encourages us to develop new narratives about ourselves and others, stories rooted in hope, healing, and connection rather than hurt and separation. These narratives shape how we engage with the world and influence the quality of our relationships. By embracing forgiveness, we rewrite our stories, creating space for authentic intimacy and belonging. In addition, forgiveness nurtures resilience, the capacity to recover from setbacks and maintain hope in the face of loneliness. Resilience enables us to keep reaching out, building relationships, and fostering connection even when previous attempts have been painful or disappointing. Forgiveness strengthens this resilience by healing emotional wounds and reducing the fear of rejection. Forgiveness also enhances our emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage our emotions and empathize with others. This emotional awareness deepens our connections, making relationships more satisfying and reducing feelings of isolation. Forgiveness is a key ingredient in developing this intelligence as it encourages reflection, compassion, and openness. Furthermore, forgiveness promotes a sense of peace and contentment that counteracts the restlessness often associated with loneliness. When we release anger and resentment, we create inner calm that radiates outward, attracting others and fostering harmonious relationships. This peaceful presence draws connection and dissolves the invisible walls that separate us. Forgiveness helps us recognize that loneliness is not a permanent state, but a condition that can be healed through intentional action and emotional work. It offers hope that no matter how isolated we may feel, we have the power to change our experience by transforming our hearts. This hopeful perspective motivates us to seek forgiveness and connection rather than resign ourselves to loneliness. In essence, forgiveness is the bridge that connects us from isolation to intimacy, from separation to belonging. It breaks down the emotional barriers that loneliness builds and opens pathways to love, trust, and genuine human connection. Through forgiveness, we reclaim our capacity to connect deeply with others and with ourselves, healing the loneliness that once held us captive. Self-forgiveness is a profound and transformative practice that nurtures inner peace and self-acceptance, turning loneliness from a painful experience into an opportunity for a fulfilling relationship with oneself. Loneliness often arises not just from external circumstances, but from internal disconnection, feeling estranged from one's own thoughts, emotions, and worth. When we hold on to self-judgment, guilt, or shame, we create a barrier between ourselves and the love and compassion we need most. Self-forgiveness acts as a healing balm that dissolves this barrier, allowing us to embrace ourselves fully, fostering a deep sense of companionship and contentment that diminishes the sting of loneliness. The journey towards self-forgiveness begins with awareness. Many people live with a harsh inner critic that constantly points out perceived flaws, mistakes, or shortcomings. This critical voice often echoes past failures and magnifies feelings of unworthiness. It isolates us within our minds, convincing us that we are undeserving of love or connection, not just from others, but from ourselves. Recognizing this inner narrative is the first step toward changing it. Self-forgiveness invites us to become mindful of these negative patterns and to begin questioning their validity. Are these thoughts absolute truths, or are they distorted perceptions shaped by pain and fear? Once awareness is established, self-forgiveness encourages a shift from judgment to compassion. Instead of condemning ourselves for our mistakes or perceived failures, we begin to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer a dear friend. This compassionate stance fosters emotional safety, allowing us to explore difficult feelings without fear of rejection or harsh criticism. It creates a nurturing internal environment where healing can take root. When we forgive ourselves, we acknowledge our humanity, our capacity to err, to grow, and to change without losing sight of our intrinsic worth. Self-forgiveness also involves accepting responsibility without self-condemnation. It is important to recognize and own our actions and their consequences, but this acknowledgement need not lead to punishment or shame. Instead, forgiveness allows us to see mistakes as opportunities for learning and growth. This perspective transforms the relationship we have with ourselves from one of harsh accountability to one of constructive self-reflection. It encourages us to make amends where possible, to set healthier boundaries, and to commit to positive change, all driven by self-respect rather than guilt. Loneliness can be intensified by the belief that we are fundamentally flawed or unlovable. Self-forgiveness dismantles this destructive belief by fostering acceptance. It reminds us that our worth is not defined by our mistakes or shortcomings, but by the essence of who we are as human beings. This acceptance nourishes self-esteem and confidence, making it easier to engage with others authentically. When we are at peace with ourselves, we project a sense of calm and openness that attracts connection rather than repels it. The practice of self-forgiveness also helps us release the past, the regrets, the what-ifs, and the self-blame that keep us tethered to old wounds. Carrying these burdens drains emotional energy and creates a sense of isolation. Forgiveness offers liberation by allowing us to let go of these heavy weights. This release creates space for new experiences, new relationships, and a renewed sense of hope. It shifts our focus from what we cannot change to what we can create in the present moment. Moreover, self-forgiveness nurtures resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and disappointments. Life inevitably brings challenges, and none of us are immune to mistakes or failures. Without forgiveness, these setbacks can spiral into cycles of self-recrimination that deepen loneliness and despair. Forgiveness interrupts these cycles, enabling us to treat ourselves gently in times of difficulty and to maintain hope for recovery and renewal. This resilience strengthens our emotional well-being and equips us to build and sustain meaningful connections. Self-forgiveness also fosters authenticity. When we stop hiding from our perceived flaws and mistakes, we can show up in the world as our true selves. This authenticity is the foundation of genuine intimacy and connection. People are drawn to honesty and vulnerability, and when we forgive ourselves enough to be open, we create opportunities for deeper relationships. Forgiveness dissolves the fear of judgment that often keeps us isolated behind masks of perfection. The process of self-forgiveness is deeply intertwined with cultivating self-love. Forgiveness teaches us to value ourselves beyond our actions and to extend grace inwardly. This self-love is not narcissistic or self-indulgent, but a healthy acknowledgement of our dignity and worth. It provides a stable foundation from which we can engage with others in balanced and nurturing ways. When we love ourselves, we are less likely to tolerate toxic relationships or harmful patterns that contribute to loneliness. Self-forgiveness also enhances emotional regulation, the ability to manage and respond to our emotions in healthy ways. Feelings of loneliness can provoke anxiety, sadness, or anger, which, if unmanaged, can drive further isolation or self-destructive behaviors. Forgiveness calms the emotional landscape by reducing internal conflict and promoting acceptance. This calmness helps us navigate social situations with greater ease and confidence, opening the door to connection. Furthermore, self-forgiveness expands our capacity for gratitude and joy. When we are not weighed down by guilt or self-reproach, we can more readily appreciate life's blessings and savor moments of happiness. This positive emotional state attracts others and fosters relationships characterized by warmth and mutual support. Gratitude and joy become antidotes to loneliness, creating an inviting atmosphere both within and around us. The journey of self-forgiveness often involves revisiting painful memories and confronting uncomfortable emotions. This process can be challenging, requiring patience and courage. However, it also offers profound healing as we integrate fragmented parts of ourselves and restore wholeness. Engaging with these difficult emotions through the lens of forgiveness allows us to transform pain into wisdom and isolation into connectedness. Self-forgiveness also aligns with many spiritual traditions and practices that emphasize mercy, compassion, and redemption. Whether through prayer, meditation, or reflective practice, forgiveness nurtures a sense of spiritual well-being that supports emotional health. This spiritual dimension provides comfort and strength, especially during times of loneliness and struggle. Practicing self-forgiveness often benefits from external support such as counseling, support groups, or trusted confidants. These resources provide guidance, validation, and encouragement as we navigate the complex terrain of healing. Sharing our struggles and receiving empathy from others breaks the cycle of isolation and reinforces the message that we are not alone. Self-forgiveness transforms loneliness by shifting our relationship with ourselves from one of estrangement to one of companionship. It invites us to become our own friend, to offer ourselves patience and understanding when life is hard. This internal friendship is a powerful source of comfort and strength that can sustain us through times of solitude and challenge. Moreover, self-forgiveness encourages us to set healthy boundaries and prioritize self-care. When we accept ourselves, we recognize the importance of protecting our well-being. This recognition leads to choices that support mental, emotional, and physical health, creating a foundation for fulfilling relationships. Boundaries protect us from further hurt and create space for genuine connection to develop. Forgiveness also fosters hope, a vital ingredient in overcoming loneliness. Hope motivates us to seek connection, to heal, and to believe in the possibility of a richer, more connected life. It propels us forward, even when the path seems uncertain or difficult. Self-forgiveness sustains this hope by reminding us that no matter our past, we can create a better future. In embracing self-forgiveness, we come to see that loneliness is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to deepen our relationship with ourselves. It challenges us to cultivate self-compassion, to listen to our needs, and to honor our journey. This inward turn transforms loneliness from a void into a fertile ground for growth and self-discovery. Self-forgiveness also encourages mindfulness, the practice of being present with our thoughts and feelings without judgment. Mindfulness supports forgiveness by helping us observe our inner experiences with curiosity and acceptance rather than harshness. This awareness reduces emotional reactivity and fosters a peaceful inner state conducive to connection. Through self-forgiveness, we reclaim our narrative. Instead of being defined by loneliness, guilt, or shame, we author a story of healing, acceptance, and love. This new narrative empowers us to engage with the world and ourselves in ways that promote belonging and joy. Ultimately, self-forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, a gift that heals the wounds of loneliness and restores our capacity for connection. It nurtures a relationship with ourselves that is nurturing, affirming, and enduring. This relationship becomes the foundation for all other connections, transforming loneliness into a profound experience of self-love and peace.